You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset. Quick reset.
Yeah, that's right. Licking gin balls.
It's just going to be a vicious cycle.
Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, get still here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn, you're killing me.
My SEAL Team 6 went to SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
To play with you.
better. Well,
I don't know what's
also-
worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Hey, let's go ahead and unwrap this present
So,
and let the debate begin.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is a new week, new episode. We are all here in the studio. I have the four horsemen. We are excited to be here. Got a good episode for you. But obviously, before we do that, how is everybody doing today?
Good.
So we sent texts back and forth, and that's what we came up with.
No,
Okay.
we didn't communicate this time.
It was,
We
yeah,
just-
that's why it's so flat. We were
We
all
just-
this week.
Wow.
We just said, go with your heart. Go with your heart.
Are you feeling precocious?
Okay.
Nah.
You know what? If that's how you come to the table, I'm okay with it. You know what?
I
You're
just
all
wanted to be
here.
honest.
Yeah, I
just
appreciate
honest,
that.
sincere.
You
wanna
didn't
be
bullshit your way
fake.
through it. You know what?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's annoying when people bullshit their way through things,
It is.
right?
It
So
is.
I appreciate your honesty.
Mhm.
I'm glad everybody's here.
Because we would never bullshit our way through a podcast.
No,
None
hell
of us.
no.
Never.
Not today, not before, and definitely not tomorrow.
It's pet
But-
peeve and it's annoying.
It is. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our drinks. I'm going to go first today because I feel like going first. Yeah. So
You
I
sassy bitch.
yes. So I combed through the bar book. It's quite extensive. And for some reason, I just wasn't feeling anything. And I thought about it and I thought about it. And I thought a lot about this week. And I was trying to find the right drink for this episode. And I just couldn't find one. So I thought I will peruse the internet. Clearly the internet will have something. So I did that. Googled it. Nothing. So I thought, you know what? You're a creative guy. You can come up with something. Figure it the fuck out. So I decided I was going to make my own drink this week.
I like it.
Put my own shit together.
It's a little bit salty and a
Come
little
up
bit
with my
sweet.
own name. And that's what I was going to do because I was tired of always trying to go somewhere else to find a drink. And I thought, I can do this. So I looked around at what I had and I thought about my situation. And I thought, you know what? I work with three incredible gentlemen week in and week out. So I thought
Fact.
for the next few
I thought
weeks.
you were working from home now. Who are you working with?
Yeah, I know. But I thought for the next few weeks, I'm going to make a drink every week as an ode to one of you. So that's what I did. So
Oh, this
today,
could go-
create
this
a
could go
concoction?
horribly wrong.
yeah, so I
promised-
created a
I promised myself
cocktail.
I wouldn't cry.
I created a cocktail
That's a klimt.
for one of you today. And it is in honor of one of you. And so
So-
next week, it'll be in honor of another one. And
So
I'm
are you
just-
going to give us the ingredients first and then allow us to guess
sure,
who it's in honor
Sure, I
of?
won't tell you the
I
drink.
like that. I like that.
Okay, so this is the drink. And as you can see, okay,
For everybody, out
It
there
is.
listening to us with, their ears who can't see shit.
it's in a double rocks glass and it is almost completely full. Unfortunately, that may be a dead giveaway right now, but it is almost completely full. It was before I started drinking. What is
There's
in this
Florida on the
drink?
side of it too.
It is. It's a Florida Gator glass, but that's neither here nor there.
No,
What
no,
is in?
that's
what
the
is-
important part of the drink.
What is in this glass
That's
is
debatable.
it is 0.75 ounces of Russell Reserve 10 year, 0.75 ounces of Angel's Envy, 0.75 ounces of 1920 Prohibition style Old Forester, 0.75 ounces of Elijah Craig small batch.
Wait, did you just have like a whole bunch of bottles you were trying to
I
get rid
swear
of
to
or
God,
something?
this sounds
No.
like a wet dream I had. the
No,
other night.
but I wanted to do
Whoa.
something a little different. It has 0.75 ounces of Eagle Rare, and then I topped it all off with an ounce of Blanton's single barrel.
Oh,
Then I
Really good.
dropped in one cherry, a little bit of homemade Demerara mix, and then I topped it with an orange, and then a little orange slice. So this is my drink for the week.
What are you calling it?
That's Haas all day long.
It is Haas all day
without a
long.
doubt. Yeah.
Now I wasn't sure about a name. It was either the old fashioned Haas or you've just been Haased. So I'm not sure, but this was my ode to Haas. I thought suicide by Haas was inappropriate.
It is very much like and I think we touched on it before, as kids going into the restaurant and just going down the line at the fountain and getting a little bit of everything.
Yeah, suicide drink. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't, you can't call it a suicide today anymore.
Right.
We can't sit Indian style.
Yeah.
But you could just say death by Haas.
The death
by Haas. There you go.
I was listening to the podcast.
Sweet death by Haas.
We were taught I believe it's the Spirit podcast, Grinch, where you were not on. And you talked about, I believe in that episode, that you and a neighbor sat down, maybe it was on Christmas Day or New Year's Day or something, and you tried 14 different bourbons.
Yeah.
So I looked at what I had available and I thought, okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit. But I tried to stay in the higher end range because one of the arguments I've always made is in a mixed drink, if you use better ingredients, it can't make the drink worse.
I mean, it sounds like the best blended bourbon ever is what it sounds like.
Obviously, I'm missing a little Four Roses.
Yeah.
I worked with what I had, but yeah, so that's what it is. It is like 6 different bourbons, and like I said, I topped it with Blanton's.
I got the.
I'm getting a head
name.
shake from Mac. Oh, you got the
No,
name?
I've got the name.
Okay, what is it?
Haas's butt plug, because it is going to make your sphincter just tighten up when you're finished with it.
Should make it loosen up.
4 fingers. I mean, it would have been roughly like
about that.
Yeah.
But this was my ode to Haas this week. So cheers. Thank you for being here. This is my ode to you.
And how is it? Out of curiosity.
It's actually really good because I didn't put a lot of the Demerara, the mix. So it is basically just bourbon with you can see the cherry down there in the bottom somewhere.
Yeah, this episode is going to go way off the rails. I think about halfway through that glass.
That was my other thought. I was like, that's a lot to drink, but it is what it is, and I will get through it. I'm not wasting shit. I ain't no basic bitch here.
Aged 10 minutes.
That's it. So that's what I'm doing. My ode to Haas. So death by Haas. You've just been Haas. Old fashioned Haas. Doesn't matter. I'll figure out a name, but that's what it is. All right. So let's go around the room. Haas, what are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing Dos Madeiras 5x5. Just
nice,
sorry,
clean.
Yeah, just sorry I'm not drinking bourbon, and now I feel like a little bit of an asshole.
Well, I thought about gin, but I only have like 2 gins, and I was like, well, I don't have enough gin to really just pour gin in a fucking.
No, well, I finally found another bottle, and Cass has been complaining because she got this for me a couple of Christmases ago. This nice decanter with the Gamecocks. Yeah. And this thing's nice, and she was kind of complaining that I haven't put anything in it yet. And so I finally came across another bottle of the Dos Madeiras 5+5. And so that's what I put in there. And I was like, you know what? I think I put it in there to use it. It looks pretty, but I should probably, appreciate it more by drinking what's in it.
There you go. Dos Muertos. There you go.
That's right.
Dos Muertos. So is it just on ice or just plain by itself?
Just one cube.
Okay. There you go. All right. Grinch, back from your trip. What are you drinking today, brother?
Kind of like you. I was like, I don't feel like giving, either what I glanced at didn't work or I didn't have one ingredient or something. So what I did was I just chopped up some fruit, little club soda, and a little, and then some of the Malibu watermelon flavor, and just something easy, fairly light. You can tinker with the proportions, but it goes down smooth. No
right, because you get out there and you start Googling stuff and nothing seems. You're like, no, and then you're just like, I don't know what I want to do.
I mean, we're how many episodes? We're like 200.
We're 110 episodes in. You figure 4 drinks an episode. Now, some of those are duplicates naturally, but even if so let's say conservatively 80 episodes times 4,
mm-hmm.
You're talking 320 drinks we probably tried, give or take.
It's starting. It's funny you mention that because I get to a place where I try to figure out what I'm drinking each week, and I'm just like, well, I don't know if I have the wherewithal to give a crap this week. I think I'm just going to pour booze over an ice cube and call it a fucking day.
It's just gin and some Fever Tree tonic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst idea, right?
I've never had Fever Tree. I actually got it, and so I am going to try it per your request.
Did you do the Mediterranean or the Indian?
It's the Indian, because I think that's the one you mentioned. The Indian was the one.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I got. So I'm not trying it today, obviously, but at some point I am going to try it because I want to see, because I know you said that's kind of your thing. So I'll give it a shot and see. All right. Mac, let's close it out with you, brother. What are you having today?
Gin and tonic.
With some Monkey 47.
Using the Monkey 47. And like you said, found the Fever Tree Indian tonic water, but they actually have an elderflower flavor.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
So we tried that last night, to be honest, and it's really good. And for anybody listening, or just for you guys at least, Publix has them buy two get one free for the 4-packs this week. So
that's a good deal. That's
you can get. They have the gin and tonic, or they have the tonic water. They have the elderflower tonic water. They have ginger beer, I think, which is included in that. So we got one of each yesterday. And I imagine we will now be going back and at least getting probably 3 more of the elderflower because we really like it.
Okay. What's the difference of, like, in terms of the flavor? Do you know? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't had a gin and tonic regular in a long time. So I mean, I guess it gives you a little more of the kind of the botanical flavor of the elderflower.
I guess
I don't even know what the fucking elderflower is. Look, it had a cool label on it. And
you were sold.
I was suckered in by the marketing, right? I'm going to be honest.
That's good.
I mean,
that's good.
You are Mr. Impulse Buy at the register, aren't you?
I am, right? So, it's really good though. So just that little ice and a little lime wedge.
Look at you. Nice. All right, so I guess I got to go out and try this now. I got the Indian Fever Tree. Now I got to try elderflower. Fuck, man. Okay.
Just need it.
The Mediterranean tonic water is also quite good.
Is it?
Does Fever Tree make a Mediterranean? Because I did not see that.
It's usually a blue label.
Okay.
Blue. It's a label. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check that out.
And they make a ginger ale, which.
I did. We got the ginger beer instead of the ginger ale, but if we go back and stock up, because I cleaned out the outside fridge the other day, so I've got a lot of room for mixers. So I need to fill it up.
We're able to get together and do a blind taste test. I like the Fever Tree ginger ale as a palate cleanser in between each bourbon.
Okay.
Cleans the palate quite well.
Look at you, all educated on how to do this.
Get in there.
Cleansing his palate.
Well, gentlemen, as always, here we are, another episode, new week. Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Glad everybody's here. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, power through that, brother.
All right.
Put some lead in your pencil.
That's it. All right, let's jump into our episode. This has been one that I think obviously bears discussion. Mac, you put some things out there this week that I thought, I won't say I thought, I wasn't sure how it was going to translate when we get to this episode because of some things that you said. And so I'm curious to see, will a debate ensue or not? But I'd love to go ahead and jump into our episode. So if you have been living under a rock, then that's on you. But in recent weeks, there has been a huge backlash publicly in social media, streaming platforms against Joe Rogan, who is currently under $100 million deal with Spotify. He gets paid $100 million a year for his show, which is, of course, hugely popular on the platform. And so there was an issue stemming from some things that were said, some incendiary language, racial slurs, some misinformation related to COVID. And apparently people took umbrage with this, and that kind of started the snowball rolling. And so here we are. There has been an issue now where Spotify, I guess, has gone in and removed over 100 episodes where he has, I guess, used misinformation or has used incendiary speech. And so you've had a number of musicians kind of band together and say, we will pull our music from the platform if something isn't done about this. Now, we've talked about censorship on this show. We did a 2-part series on that. And of course, we've talked about it in and out of every episode, right? Because here we are, we're also doing the same thing that Joe Rogan is doing. So I thought this might be a good time to talk about that situation. What does that mean? What does that mean for Joe? What does that mean for the streaming platform of Spotify or any other platform that does this type of thing? So I thought this would be a good time to talk about that, see where everybody kind of falls on it, and let's see where this takes us. So who would like to start? Anybody but him.
No.
Anyone?
I'm going.
Anyone? Is anybody else going to raise their hand?
We'll say that because the missus and I were talking about this last night when there, the censorship episode I think is applicable because we touched on it there, and then I think I think Joe Rogan really got brought into the spotlight over this particular COVID issue when Aaron Rodgers said he took advice from his friend Joe Rogan about homeopathic treatments or whatever the fuck he made up, and ivermectin or I probably said that wrong. Ivermectin wrong every time. Right. So in short order following that was I think there was like a letter written by like 100, co-signed by like 100 doctors or whatever it was that said, hey, this is dangerous what he's promoting. And then that kind of initiated the initial cycle of like, oh, well, we'll put this label on there. And then now here we are, like somehow it's still a couple of weeks later, it's still a thing because you've got, Trevor Noah that weighed in. You've got celebrities that have supported him, like Dwayne Johnson. I mean, I guess, and then of course he didn't participate in the UFC. He normally does the color commentary. Dana White did address that in his post-fight conference, saying that had nothing to do, like it was scheduling or whatever. Like he's like, he could have worked. You'll have to ask him why he didn't do it, because Michael Bisping stepped in. And then now you get this back and forth with CNN, So yeah, I mean it's just some backdrop for the whole thing before rendering any opinions of what's going on.
Well, I'll jump in. So I thought it was interesting because you mentioned a number of things there in your opening little piece. One of those being, yes, thank you. One of those things
I'm prone to do. Oh, and by the way, it's graphite in a pencil, not lead.
Thanks for circling back to that. I appreciate that. That was actually up here. That was bothering me the whole time. So I
know it's so funny. Like that is the saying sometimes. Yes. I've heard, but it's like it's not lead in a pencil.
You mentioned that Dwayne the Rock Johnson came out in support of Joe Rogan. So I did want to touch on that briefly because I know that was something that came out. He came out in support of an apology that Joe made and said that it was well thought out and I can't wait to come on your show, blah, blah, blah. Well, I guess somebody then went to Dwayne and said, these are things that this guy has said, and sent clips of what Joe has said. And I guess it was related to his use of the N-word repeatedly up to 20 times. And then Dwayne walked it back going, I appreciate, you sending that to me. Now I have a clearer picture of the individual and the situation. Now, I don't know what that means because obviously we look at The Rock and we say, across movies, the entertainment business as a whole, the tequila and the spirits industry, he's got the number one fastest growing in Terramana tequila in the world in terms of coming to market and what they're doing. Like he's got the Under Armour line. What is it? Max
Project
Zoa?
Rock or whatever.
He's got Zoa,
the energy drink. I can save you some time and tell you exactly what it was about.
Go.
It was about everything you just listed there. He has a brand and he's got to sell that brand. And he doesn't want, you look back, I mean, he's not one to create a lot of drama. And so honestly, when he came out and even said anything, it surprised me a little bit. Yeah. Because, again,
he doesn't normally get involved in shit like this.
Yeah. Right. Because he's smart enough to know I got my hands in a whole lot of shit and I don't want to alienate anybody that's going to buy my stuff. And look, I agree with him, right? I'm not saying he's wrong in doing that and not necessarily jumping on a platform, to alienate one side or the other.
So what do you think about him and the comments he made though?
Well, real quick, the comment he made was only great stuff here, brother. Perfectly articulated. Look forward to coming on one day and breaking out the tequila with you. That is apparently what he said. And then an author by the name of Don Winslow, and I don't know, author of what I don't know, is the one that actually gave him, I guess, the information, in which point Dwayne The Rock Johnson came back and said, Winslow, I really appreciate it. I have actually listened to the statements and, from there then began to walk things back.
Yeah. I mean, he actually never came out really in support of Joe Rogan other than to say, look, I appreciate
great
the
stuff
apology.
there, brother.
Well, it was related to his apology.
But it was related to the apology.
Yeah.
The fact that he stepped up and owned it to some extent and Kate was apologizing.
Right.
I don't, again, I didn't bring this up when we were working out in the Iron Paradise the other night.
Right.
But I
You're like,
assume,
Dwayne, what are you doing, bro?
yeah. No, I was trying to
Besides
not die.
horse tranquilizers and HGH.
But, I can only assume that his comments were around the apology, not anything he had said in the past, because clearly it seems like he didn't know, the whole backstory.
Well, and my understanding is, wasn't it like India Ari that like
the singer
about,
or was it
digging up
artist?
all the times it was used, and then the clip
right.
was forwarded by Don Winslow, who's an American author. His books are like City on Fire, The Power of the Dog, which I don't know if that's
Power of the Dog.
Power of the Dog just got made into a movie.
Well, the cover though is like a soldier, modern soldier. So I just don't know enough to know if it's the exact lift of the same concept, but set in a Western. But Broken and a number of other books. Anyway, he's an American author.
Well, obviously, and this started because of what had happened with through the platform of Spotify. Neil Young came out in support, not of Rogan, but in support of saying there should be something done about this situation. Like, this is not okay. And the other artist was Joni Mitchell. And I'm not sure if it was they removed themselves from the platform or Spotify removed them from the platform.
They requested Spotify remove all of their music from the platform because they didn't want to be associated with a a tech company that was promoting this, which they're not. And here's where the gray line really comes in, I think, for me. They're a platform to distribute media. At what point, and this is an open-ended question, at what point did they become the Gestapo of what's going on their platform, right?
The Gazpacho?
The Gazpacho.
As Marjorie Taylor Greene says, the Gazpacho police.
See how I did that?
Don't invoke her name on this show. Don't do that.
But no, I mean, and it's not just Spotify, right? It's Spotify, it's Facebook, Instagram, any of them. They're just creating a platform to share this information, which is basically what the internet was created for. And why are they the ones that get to police what's out there? I think as a society, you have to take the internet for what it is. It's a means to share information. That information can be right. That information can be wrong. But you have to make a.
I think the point. I think the point is this: they're artists who generate income for Spotify. Spotify paid Rogan $100 million to have his podcast strictly on Spotify. Exclusively on Spotify.
That's a very important point about the exclusivity of it.
They're pulling their stuff. They want their content pulled because they don't agree with his approach or view of things, and they obviously don't agree. Like India Arya says, no person outside of our race should be using the N-word, period. There's no instance where that's acceptable or good behavior. She didn't want her content on there making money for Spotify.
And that's her choice, right? To pull that.
Right.
But the problem I have is when they go and try and force Spotify, to kind of strong arm them to do something that they want to do. It's kind of the cancel culture, right? And at the end of the day, and we're going to kind of go, to some extremes here. I'm just going to do liberal and conservative, right? The liberals are doing exactly what they don't want the conservatives to do. They're forcing people to be censored when, they're the first ones lined up when, the conservatives are, banning books in schools, saying this isn't right. But yet, aren't they kind of doing the same thing in this situation?
Okay, but they're asking Spotify to do it. Who should be the arbiter of that justice then? If they're paying Joe $100 million, who should be the last line of defense to say, Joe, you can't do that? What? Well, what is it? I'm sorry. Who's the communications oversight with the government?
FCC.
Yeah, thank you. Should it be them? Should it be Spotify? Who should it be? Because if it's, and I'm not casting dispersions on Joe, but if it's not going to be Joe censoring himself, who should it be?
Who should censor him? Why should he be censored?
I mean, in this day and age, I'll use the phrase I've used all the time, which is pain thresholds. I think at the time when we discussed this the first time, I made the comment to the effect of like, with great responsibility or with great power comes great responsibility. And right. I felt like Joe Rogan did, especially in this unique time with a freaking pandemic that just won't quite finish. I mean, it's his show, right? But I felt like it was a very bad decision to put somebody on who is clearly promoting information that has been absolutely debunked. And had already been censored in some way, in shape, and form,
people
based
are
on
listening.
Health.
Well, okay, but not just that. But he came out and said, and I quote, "I'm not trying to promote information. I'm vowing to," and I quote, "try to balance things out."
But what does that mean?
But here's here at the end of the day, let's be honest, right? And this goes for Joe Rogan. And I've never listened to I've never listened to an episode of his show. Never listened to any of his stand up. I don't necessarily care for the guy, and of course I'm saying that having not listened to anything. But it goes for Joe Rogan and for Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, if you're waking up, or if Dr. Fauci is waking up and saying, "We're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. What are we going to do? Let me call Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers and figure it out," then we got a bigger problem, right? Well, I mean,
here's my analogy of this, though. I mean, I understood what you're saying, Haas, about like allowing a platform for alternative views. I don't take issue with that as a concept, but it'd be like, in my opinion, if he brought somebody on that was just like, "I think all school buses should drive like 90. They'll be safer the faster they move."
Sweet.
And everybody's like, "What?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm just promoting alternative ideas. Buses should drive 90, like no seatbelts, no nothing." And you're like, this is contrary to all common sense, science, and a number of other things. I put it in that same category, which is why I felt, strongly enough about.
Do you think those kind of statements are cop-out statements on his part?
Well, I do. Yeah, I do. I don't agree with, you can just say, "Hey, I'm just allowing a platform. I'm just the dumb guy over here asking questions." Like, what? Yeah. Well, bro, you're getting paid $100 million to do it.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of listeners.
That was really kind of the way I felt as well. That's why I asked.
Yeah, that's why I took issue with it. Is like, I'm not satisfied with you saying, "I'm just here asking questions."
I will say I've watched and listened to quite a bit of his content, maybe not entire episodes, but snippets, that they do to promote the show. And he has really good guests on and very thought-provoking conversations. It's not, and the listeners should know too, if they don't already, that a lot of the N-word controversy, I think, came from many years back. I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe anything was in the immediate near future or current time frame. I think it was like 2015, as late as 2015, 2016, I believe. And he apologizes, right? He comes out and apologizes and says, the stuff was taken out of context. I was using it to say like Richard Pryor's album, or I was using it to say, quoting somebody or something like that. So it was out of context. So I do think, and to Mac's point, I do think that some of this cancel culture knee-jerk reaction stuff is a bit heavy-handed and on the opposite side. Was he right to be saying this? And should he have known better? No, he shouldn't have been saying it. Yeah, he should have known better. Did he come out and apologize? And do I think he was sincere? Yeah. I think when you start messing with someone's paycheck, they tend to get pretty sincere pretty quick.
Well, but that's not sincere. But I understand.
No. I disagree. I think someone can, if someone starts messing with your foundation of who you are as a person and how we earn our living and how we perceive ourselves through our work, that can shake your foundation.
It can, but it may not always be the case, right? It can just simply be somebody coming out and saying, "Well, this is going to impact me being able to make $100 million.
Yeah,
I better say I'm sorry, whether I mean it or not." Right?
He's a very proud guy, and he's a very he really truly believes what he believes, and I don't think he's a horrible person. I think people make mistakes, and he's made mistakes. And I think he's kind of being punished for them now. I'm not sure if it's all.
You think Alex Jones believes what he believes?
No.
I'm just saying. I think that guy honestly believes the rhetoric that he spits out.
Yeah, look, maybe he's doing some of this to be controversial. Maybe he's doing some of this to get ratings. Sure, no doubt. But does the punishment fit the crime?
But right now, what's the punishment?
Well, the punishment is people trying to cancel culture his ass.
Yeah, trying. But that's the argument. Like there was an article on CNN saying he's really effectively had no penalties. Spotify has backed him. He hasn't lost income. What
should the penalty be? Right.
I don't know.
And that's what he is.
Hold on, but they removed a bunch of the episodes, right? And they've now said that who was it? Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify, said that moving forward, we are going to be watching this very closely. They're talking to him, to Rogan and Rogan's team on a daily basis.
But the question then becomes, are they doing that because they want to do it and they feel like they're doing the right thing?
No.
Or are they doing it because they're covering their own asses, right? Yeah. Because, well, let's be honest, right? I mean, when the fuck was the last time anybody here, did a stream of a, Neil Young or Joni Mitchell song, right?
Well, look,
they're at this point small fish in the pond, but what's that next big fish going to be? That Spotify's trying to prevent?
I mean, she's a pretty big fish. I wouldn't call her a small fish.
Well, I was going to say, I made the comment, Haas, you just echoed it. They removed 100+ episodes that had, incendiary language or misinformation, right? We have 112 episodes. Joe Rogan has 1,770. So 100 means nothing to him. So I get that they're dropping 100 episodes, but at the end of the day, that's no impact on Joe.
But here's my question.
And it doesn't affect his bottom line. He still makes $100 million.
How is that any different than them pulling books out of school because they don't agree with what's written in the book? I mean, it is censorship at the end of the day. And isn't that kind of what we're against?
It depends on
what he's saying or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a fair question. I think it's, if you remove the inward aspect and we talk about the misinformation,
and I'm taking that kind of out of context because look, at the end of the day, there's no excuse for that. I think to Haas's point, he said that a long time ago. Hopefully he's learned his lesson and he's right. I'm basically talking about the misinformation. Here's the stuff.
Here's the comparison I would make. The comparison of them taking. Removing shows out of Rogan's rotation that have the N-word in it would be the same as if Mein Kampf was a current literature book in the schools and they were removing it. They're both incendiary
in terms of the racial,
right, and they're both incendiary. So I don't see that as censorship. I just see that as good.
Well, I mean, I will say, maybe parsing this out a little bit. I agree with what you're getting at there, Mac, and that's where my line is. Now, the N-word, I think, is something he has to account for, right?
No, I agree with that.
In the sense of, hey, brother, you're the one that said it. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody went through my entire life's work and had it recorded, they could probably just rip me to shreds, right? I mean, so in that regard, I recognize he's human and he's had an arc of life and he's put a lot of, he's got a lot of material out there. If you say make the decision of taking it down or not, that word, that word's
it's
I want to say tricky. It's not tricky. Yeah. It's very straightforward, and it's exactly what like Dave Chappelle was getting at, which was when he talked about like the gay community versus the African American community, which is they flat out got the word FAG removed from any acceptable form, right? It is just flat out not acceptable. Maybe a comedian can get away with it, but it's
unless you're smoking a cigarette,
right? It's done.
England,
it's done.
How is that still a thing? But yeah,
right. And that's what, where I think this word is today, the N word, which is it should be done. It should be done. Now, African American community, if you want to own it, keep using it. It's not for me to say. I recognize there's a lot of baggage that comes with that.
Right.
Where my line with this, and again, I think I'm saying like I didn't cancel Spotify. I'm not going to listen to them. I just thought that what he put out and saying you're just listening to alternative views was not a good enough answer when it comes to something so important right now. And it got over politicized, as we know, way early. So like it's so hard to just go, that's not right. What you're putting out is not right. Because you'll have people that will believe it.
Right.
And that puts us all at risk.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, is that not on that person, right? I mean, we've talked about this before. the internet is a means for getting information out there, and a shit ton of information. As a human being, it's on you to do the research and figure out what you want to believe. Now, if you want to just listen to one person and one person only, and clearly we know a lot of people do that, and they don't get both sides of the story, that's on you. And yeah, there's bad things that come with that because you can potentially get misinformation.
Well, there are 335 million people in this country, and 250 million of them, I'm assuming that's globally, 250 million listen to Joe Rogan on the Spotify platform monthly, right? That's a lot of reach. And so I think, and Grinch, you said this, we talked about it in censorship. And again, we've touched on it through the 110 episodes that we've currently released, is with power comes responsibility. You have to be careful about what you say, especially when your reach is 250 million people monthly, and so what you say matters.
But you should be, that's the whole point of freedom of speech, right? You should be allowed to say what you want to say.
Carte blanche.
No. Without getting into like libel and slander and that kind of shit.
Right.
You're right. This is probably in our lifetime the first time. Well, the internet and everything that wasn't really around during AIDS, but I guarantee it would have been similar of what people were saying of like only homosexuals get AIDS, and stuff like that.
Well, you didn't need the internet. That was still the information that was out there.
That's what was put out, and all of us were scared of touching surfaces, even though it was sexually transmitted. But, this is a very unique confluence of things, I think. And I'm with you, Mac. Like, as I've said, I thought what he said was irresponsible, and I stand by that. I'm not asking for him to be removed. I don't think he's like a horrible human being that was intentionally trying to like
harm people,
something necessarily, and ironically, the more people get stupid with this, the more I start moving into his camp and going, sandbags, and I'm facing outward.
Right.
No, and so you brought up a great point, a minute ago about canceling Spotify and saying that you weren't going to do it. Yeah. Thor and I kind of had some discussions earlier this week. I was talking about Apple Music, and I'll be honest, I was looking at, other alternatives, but then I stopped and said, but then, and again, is the point, am I not doing exactly what, I'm preaching against doing, right? I'm looking to cancel something because I don't necessarily like what he says, but he's free to say what he wants to say, in my opinion. Like I said, at the end of the day, if I get up in the morning and I get my medical advice from Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers, I got bigger fucking problems in my life that I need to figure out, right?
Exactly.
It's a mean for getting information, and then you're, as a human being, I should take that information and say, let me go read some more about this.
Right.
Especially when it concerns my life.
Exactly. But he should be allowed to put that information out there, and people can go read up on it or do with it as they please.
But I think we can agree that most people will take the path of least resistance. They're not going to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 sources to corroborate information to verify whether or not it's true or Darwinism.
Otherwise. It just works itself out.
I get that, but
if I'm going to the dark place here, which I'm comfortable with,
isn't that where you spend most of your time?
Ironically,
he says he's going to the dark place.
Like
he ever leaves it. He just says the dark place.
Like your jokes being in the gutter, and you act like they're not always
there.
The dark,
moist place.
It's only because either various mediums of sources of information I happen to be in the same waters with Rogan to a degree. These idiots that are peddling drinking silver and all that other shit, I actually don't care about, because I will never watch them and they never cross my path. And if they're killing people, that's on them. It is.
Wait, who's drinking silver?
I swear to God, there are people peddling like drinking urine and silver. I'm not making this up.
to counterbalance COVID?
Yes.
Okay. But look, I'm going to throw this out there right there real quick.
First off, don't do either of those things to cure COVID. Do not drink silver or do not drink urine.
Do you know that, though?
It doesn't matter what I know.
Legal just wrote me.
What I'm telling you.
Do your own due diligence.
My point,
Thank you.
Legal and make your most informed decision.
But this is going to lead me into something that I was thinking about this week as we were talking about all this. So, with the height of, COVID and everything, and I know obviously with Omicron, we're definitely dealing with a different variant that is not kind of the same powerful variant that the original COVID was. I know several people now that were not vaccinated, got COVID, got on the Omicron. They were down for a couple days, and boom, they were right back up. So I'm just saying we don't have all the information. Everybody swore, "Oh, you got to get vaccinated. You got to get vaccinated." Maybe you don't.
Well, Haas says anal cures COVID, but legal says we can't say that openly.
I'm just saying.
It's like drinking Drano.
No,
sure, it'll clean you out, but it'll leave you hollow
inside.
I just
butt plugs.
What doesn't cut? What'd you say? What doesn't catch?
That's what cures COVID. Butt plugs.
Cures butt plugs. There you go. Because it has no way in, right? Is that what it is? Nothing can get past it.
At least one of our episodes will now be removed from Spotify for misinformation.
That's right. I will say again, to quote the late great George Carlin, when he was like, "There are two dials on the TV, Reverend." This is obviously a dated reference. Channel and volume.
Turn that shit down. Turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not calling for his removal. I thought what happened needed to be addressed. And in terms of where I stand, like I think he has addressed it. I don't think he's a horrible human being. I thought it was irresponsible, but man, we're in the world we're in now. It's
the second you do something wrong, and again, it's the cancel culture, right? It fucking drives me nuts, right? Look, there are absolutely certain things that need to be addressed, right? When people, what was it, Harvey Weinstein? That absolutely probably should have been addressed and should not have been allowed to go on. But there's other things like this where I'm like, okay, you're now delving into the censorship, and who's to say who's right and who's wrong?
And I think this gets back to the humanizing an issue at times, because it's hard, like we don't have the luxury, because we've never been in the room with the guy, of like taking in the totality of the person, right? Because we've all said it. We have people and friends that we know we like and we get along with, and we know otherwise they're not bad human beings, but we cannot for the life of us figure out why they stand a certain position politically. And I think in this case, that's kind of where I am, is like, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say wholesale toss it because one thing was said or done.
Well, and that's the point, right? That's what everyone's doing. That's what everyone's doing is broad stroke painting and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what these knee-jerk reactions is. Let's not get into the weeds. Let's not be contextual. Let's blow everything out of proportion and just, take somebody down because we don't like them or their stance or their point of view, because he is controversial, right? Like, he's not, we could probably safely say he leans way more right than he does left.
But is he controversial? That depends on who you ask, right?
I think he's.
If you ask Aaron Rodgers, no.
Right, exactly. Controversial becomes an opinion.
I'm not asking some football meathead for advice.
Okay, why would you ask Joe Rogan for advice?
There are plenty of intellectual football players out there. He ain't one of them.
But that's my point. If you're taking your advice from them, wholeheartedly, no questions asked, then that's on you.
And by and large, and I'll say this, I hope I'm not being a hypocrite if I were to listen back to things we said in previous discussions about this. But maybe this is a little bit of a walk back in the sense that I think he would claim, and this actually, I'm almost certain this is what he'd claim, he just facilitates the flow of information back and forth. He even said, he's like, a lot of times I have no idea what I'm going to say. We just go where the conversation goes.
Yeah, but he asks certain specific pointed questions, and he makes very specific pointed comments.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not like a thinking individual that in the moment can react. I'm not trying to imply that. But I think kind of what you were getting at there, Haas, of like, and again, this is the one outlier in my mind of the provided a forum for what I consider improper information in our current state. Now, I think he's had like dissidents from North Korea on and things like that. I don't have a dog in that fight, in the sense that it doesn't directly affect me. I don't know if that person was full of shit, if what they had to say was all real, but I'm ignorant to it all, and it doesn't affect life, health, and safety as far as I know. Now everything's relative, right? But so I don't render judgment on all these other episodes. I'm kind of dialed into this specific, these specific incidences of the COVID information as it relates to him
versus everything else he's ever said.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll use okay, so Trevor Noah comes on there and just like eviscerates the guy, and if you guys saw, Dave Draymond went back and started digging up some of Trevor Noah's old material, and he's like,
hammered on
fucker, careful when you cast a stone, buddy, because you made a joke about a German car running over a Jewish kid.
Right. Look, at the end of the day,
none of it just sounds like a good joke.
None of us are here. And again, I'm going to bring this back into the fold because I know we kind of removed it, was use of the N-word. None of us are black. And I know we have said, or I say we, I will use the royal we have said, well, that was years ago. I'm not black. I don't know if that ever goes the fuck away. Like if you said that in 2015, like if I'm still not offended now, if I'm an African American, I'm like, yeah, just because you said that.
What's the statute of limitations?
Right. Like I have to live under that guy's wrong, right? My entire life. So just because you said it a decade ago doesn't make it fucking right. Like, yes, and we've said this before, we're four affluent white men going, oh, well, that was years ago. I'm not going to discount that African Americans go, yeah, that never goes away for us. You don't get to play that card. That was years ago.
And I want to put it on the table, right? I don't think any of us are condoning his use, or saying that he should should have done that, right? By any
what I'm condoning is let's take it into context, one, and two, let's also take into account the time frame. So if we're talking a decade ago, I mean, people grow and evolve,
right?
I mean, you hope and pray.
Well, but our culture changes too, right? I mean, you look at, go back and look at, I've seen. There's been episodes of a show that we, a couple of us like to watch, Scrubs, that have been removed
because of for
the use of blackface. There's other shows, like How I Met Your Mother, where they're one of the main characters played by Neil Patrick Harris was a womanizing sociopath, but it was funny during the show, and everybody seemed okay with it. But you look back at it now, and it didn't age well. Look back at All in the Family. When was the last time somebody complained about that?
I still think All in the Family was well ahead of its time.
Well,
I'm
again,
just saying, there's things that happen, and it's a microcosm of society at the time,
right? And
obviously, our society changes, but that doesn't mean, and I'm gonna, make Grinch just kind of, keel over here. We have to study history lest we repeat it, right? Don't just whitewash it, which is just a horrible term. I apologize for that.
Yeah,
I'm going to wipe it from society and say it never happened, right?
I'm going to play Grinch right here, and he would say, "You can't use that as a blanket statement, right? Know your past, lest you'll repeat it. It's going to determine the factors of the current situation." Yeah, I just watched two movies.
Right.
We talk about Joe Rogan using the N-word, and I just watched two movies. One of those was Blazing Saddles, and I just finished watching. It, right? And Django Unchained. Both of them use the N-word.
Or even Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
But I'm saying both of, and this is what I was talking to my daughter about. I was like, I read an article saying it is never okay for white people to use the N-word, and I agree with that. But what if you're quoting a movie? What if you're quoting Django? What if you're quoting Blazing Saddles? And you don't mean it in a derogatory term, but
I still don't think you use it, right?
I'm not saying you do. I'm saying, but those are used in entertainment purposes. Nobody comes out and says, get rid of that movie, get rid of that director, get rid of that actor.
But we get rid of Joe Rogan, right?
I know.
And maybe the point being that, that movie is trying to encapsulate a moment in time, again, when, that was right or wrong. And I think we all agree it was wrong. It was acceptable use, right?
Yeah, because let's look at Blazing Saddles, the use of the N-word, Germans and Nazis. the use of the, and gays and the disparaging remarks about gays, all of that wrapped into one movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying cancel Blazing Saddles.
It's funny that you mentioned that movie, and I can't remember if we discussed this, but when the missus was working at the local theater here,
we did.
They were going to show Blazing Saddles,
right? And somebody was like, "Has nobody seen this movie?"
What? Yeah. I mean, I think we've said this repeatedly. Like nuance. I think we want to take rigid stances because it does make it makes the world a little easier to comprehend, but it is nuance. And that's why, I know I'm inconsistent at times, and like somewhere in my head, I understand why it is, but I may not be able to articulate it. Cause you could say, even during our lifespan, like at the time, yes, the N-word, I heard it all over the place. I mean, I grew up in Alabama, did I say it? I'm sure I did. Did I understand? Like, I didn't understand. Actually, no, it's funny. I had a kid grab me by the throat, a black kid, because I said the word. I had no clue what I was saying.
Probably should have grabbed you by the throat.
Yeah, I honestly.
And looking back on that, I'm sure you're like, okay, yeah. I understand what he was doing.
It was like a daycare after school, so it was there was multiple kids there. We all running around. Were you
like 3?
No, I was probably like
I was in a daycare,
right? Like 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. And I said it, and I mean, he reacted just like that. And I remember the teacher's name. I remember her name, Miss Miller. Put her hand on his shoulder and said, he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand what he's saying.
He's heard it somewhere and he's repeating it.
Right.
And I mean, I rightfully deserved what happened, I would say, but I didn't understand what I was doing.
Right.
Now that's youth, right? That's naivete,
ignorance.
And I think as you arc forward, then it starts becoming a little bit more of like, and we've always said, like, if you aren't comfortable discussing it, like I can work through it if we can discuss it and let's figure this out. But if it's just, I wholeheartedly feel this in my bones that this is not a race that I ever want to be around, then I'm like, there's nothing else we have to talk about. Like I'm fine canceling you. There's nothing there I want. You do not make this world a better place.
Right.
Well, I think, I mean, it's not a black and white world, right?
Oh,
Shades of gray.
Wait, I'm sorry, Haas. What was that?
Are we singing live? Are we singing live?
Somebody knew where I was going with that. To be alive. Colors must
Pencil Jewelry. Great album.
Yes.
Maybe one day we'll appreciate the beauty of gray.
That's the beauty of gray.
So no, I mean that that's it, right? I mean, but you clearly look back on that, and it's a learning moment, right? You realize that look, I did know what I was doing, but I can appreciate now that what I did was wrong, and clearly would never do it again.
Well, and we can misunderstand science and facts and information.
Yeah.
Why is it we can't be given some grace for misunderstanding culture?
Social, right.
Well, but I think that's the important thing to know, right? And that brings us kind of back to the Joe Rogan thing, right? We don't know that at this point in our life, we don't know that the information they're putting out there is right or wrong. It's contrary to what, some of the doctors are saying, sure. And we assume that, based on the information we have right now, we think they're right. But in 10 years, we may look back and go, well, we fucked that one up. We should have been listening to Aaron Rodgers and Joe Rogan, right? We don't know.
No.
I don't.
You lost me. You lost me.
See, I'm on the perimeter in the trenches.
You went too far for me.
Mac is up in the castle. Mac is up in the castle with Joe. Like
he's meeting with them right now.
Let's tar and feather these some bitches.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. We don't know what we don't know, right? I mean,
sure,
we're basing it off of the information
we do know what we do know.
That's right. And legal says ivermectin is a drug for livestock. Do not take it for COVID. Okay. That's what our legal
I'm going to trust
tells
someone who has a PhD and has worked for the CDC for 30 years before I'm going to listen to fucking Joe Rogan and fucking Aaron Rodgers.
All right, so we'll and look, I'm not saying that I would listen to him either, right? All I'm saying is that we could look back on this in 20 years and find out that we were wrong.
We
won't. It takes a big man to admit when he's wrong, and I am not a big man.
Of shit before in this world.
But I'm just saying, you have 20 or 250 million listeners. Why doesn't Joe have like a Dr. Fauci on or somebody at that level? Have them come on a show and talk. But he doesn't do that.
I would listen to that episode.
So would
right?
I.
I mean,
I think because again, he's controversial and he knows that's what gets him ratings.
But
and
that would be a controversial episode.
He's trying to quote unquote get the other side out there.
Yeah, I just think
for whatever that's worth.
When Donald Trump comes out in defense of you and says, dude, stop apologizing. Like, you haven't done anything wrong. Stop apologizing. Like, that's not a good thing. Because I don't think that man's ever apologized for anything. So I think I agree with what you all are saying. I don't think at his core, Joe is a bad person. I've listened to his stand-up. I think he's funny. I've listened to a few of his podcasts.
I don't care whether he's a bad person or not. I mean, he just like us, he's afforded a platform, or he should be afforded a platform to speak his mind. As long as it's not hurting anybody else.
But when it does, that's what I'm saying. When it does.
But how is it?
I mean, it should be.
I mean, again, he's putting the information out there. He's not going and putting the needle in your arm.
Yeah, you're splitting fucking hairs, bro. I mean, come on.
You're rolling all kind of semantics out now.
Well, I'll be alone on this one. I just, and again, I'm not saying I agree with what he's saying. I don't listen to him. I'm just simply saying that, just like anybody else. Look, Thor, Spotify calls you tomorrow and says, guess what? We're pulling down 60 of your episodes because we don't agree with what you're talking about.
I would say,
are you just going to say, yes, sir, let's do it?
I would ask, what's the issue? And if it was a legit issue, I would say, okay, yeah, we fucked up. Absolutely.
Right. But maybe he's doing the same thing. And he says that this, to me, is not a legit issue.
It's possible. But I think
he's allowed to have
his opinion.
Hold on. But here's the problem. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And when there's repetitive issues that come into play.
Drinks before with no fire.
All I'm saying is if Dave Grohl comes out and says, look, I'm leaving Spotify because you're hosting a spirited debate, I'm going to be
Grinch will cancel his membership then. Yeah.
I'm going to be like, hell yeah, Dave Grohl knows who we are. Because I got to imagine Foo Fighters brings a lot of listeners to Spotify. So, I mean, he did come out and say, look, if there isn't something done, we may remove ourselves from Spotify because of the Joe Rogan issue. But you know what I'm saying? So like, yes, if there were issues like that, if Neil Young said, hey, a spirited debate was, they've said some things that are questionable, I would probably look inward.
He wouldn't be wrong.
I would look inward and go, what the fuck did we just say?
You'd be like,
I'd be listening through our episodes going, fuck, what do we do? Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Thor's like, the only thing I know is how many times butt plugs have been said.
That's right.
Look,
683 times we've said butt plugs.
With it.
I mean, obviously we're not in that position, right? So the devil's advocate aspect doesn't really apply because it's hard for us to imagine ourselves in that position. But, I'll say it again, Grinch, you've said it over and over. With power comes responsibility. And there is, even at our level, like we do not have 250 million listeners a month, but even at our level, we recognize why what?
Why with power comes responsibility? I mean, right? It's the what was it? Torello Machado Cinco, right?
Well,
I'm not a role model. I'm a fucking football player that gets paid to play a game. Why are your kids looking up to me?
But it's relative.
It's bullshit.
Your family looks up to you, and your relative.
Well, and that's a problem. I try and convince them not to look up to me.
I mean, wouldn't you argue that the president has great responsibility because he's in a tremendous position of power? And then that's just relative down the line. It's relative to your sphere of influence. And that's why I say, like, look at the end of the day, I'm not saying he can't, but he needs to understand what consequences could come. Because that's
like Dad's always said,
we talked about.
You have the right of the First Amendment, right? But you also have right to the consequences of the stupid shit that comes out your mouth.
He can say whatever he wants. It's his platform. I don't disagree with that. But when the fallout happens, he also shouldn't be looking around going, I wonder why people are leaving or they're mad.
Well, and I don't think he is he? I mean, I don't think he's pointing fingers and saying
he's still making $100 million a year.
But right. I mean, but
he is doing damage control.
came after the episodes, right? So it was a bit of like, there was clearly, it started to gain some steam as the more people dug into it. Again, pain thresholds. Spotify can do whatever they want. If
but I guess
financial impacts come, they can't question the people who do it. That's their choice. And if Joni Mitchell and the others, Neil Young, if they
that's the
music,
point, right? We don't even know who these people are to remember.
But if they own their music, that's their right to pull it.
No, I'm not saying that they shouldn't pull it, right? I guess I just, again, kind of the point of the internet is to get that information out there. So when we start censoring that, I think it becomes a very slippery slope that you're going to go down. And this is, this has been an argument that has gone on for years now, if not longer, of what these tech companies like Facebook, like MySpace, at this point, Spotify, since they're carrying podcasts, what responsibility, if any, do they have for managing this? Or are they just simply a platform to get the information out there, and they have no responsibility for the information that's being hosted on their platform? That's the question.
Hold on. They have a responsibility to the people that have stock in Spotify, to the people who they're investors. So that they have a responsibility because their number one goal is to make money.
Well, how about this? Right. What happens in a year or two when a class action lawsuit comes because all these people have long-term medical effects from taking something they never should have been taking?
Right. And they all say they learned it.
That's a whole other episode we can talk about. Litigation in this country and fucking bullshit lawsuits.
Well, litigation.
No, but it's not bullshit. This one, I think what Grinch is trying to say is this one could be legit. People come out and say, hey, Joe Rogan said, and all these other people that he had experts on said I should take, horse freaking medicine. And now,
and I would push back and say,
I've got liver failure.
You followed that information. That is not our responsibility.
But what if I said, and this is a lot more direct and it connects to direct crime, we could cure global warming if we just killed more people. And I wholeheartedly believed it because it's my platform. I can say whatever I want. Where I'm going with this is the difference is you would see the immediate consequence. My issue with this is we don't know what the consequence is. It's out in the woodwork in the ether.
We will.
But we don't know that there will. Right. But my point is we don't know that there will be a consequence.
That's true.
Right.
But hold on. We're relatively intellectual people, and we've lived. This society, modern society, has lived long enough to where we can look back on history and we can say with a fair amount of certainty there's going to be consequences.
Now I know I sent out.
Don't believe
this
that,
week,
by the way.
I sent out this week that Joe Rogan was offered by is it Rumble.com, whatever it was, right? The video platform that, hey, come to us, we'll pay you $100 million, zero censorship issues. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you want. And he rejected that. So kudos to Joe for at least rejecting that and saying, hey, fuck you, I'm staying where I'm at.
Now, was there an offer from Grindr as well? I thought I saw something. Maybe not. I could be mistaken.
I don't know. At the end of the day,
Max projecting. Please tell me there was. Please tell me there was.
Yeah.
I just made up that fact.
At the end of the day, you never know how he could he could score a lot on Grindr. I'm
trying to morally justify how Grindr is great for everybody.
At the end of the day, butt plugs will cure COVID. Just remember that. So before we close out, any final thoughts about Joe Rogan, Spotify,
it's like an Italian salami,
and the situation that has unfolded there? I mean, we've said a lot in the last hour plus.
And I don't know that we really got anywhere with anything.
I don't think we did.
It was a good discussion to have, I think.
Well, I mean, where I am now is, like I said, I take issue with some of what was said. I don't really listen to him anyway.
Right.
And I just thought it was irresponsible. Do I think he acknowledged it? And do I think Spotify? I'd probably be doing the exact same thing Spotify is right now, which is a little bit of damage control. Let this settle out. So like, is the world going to end tomorrow if he isn't canceled? No.
Is the world going to end tomorrow if he is canceled?
Yeah,
maybe.
The hot topic.
No.
So, and by the way, that Power of the Dog is a completely different story. It's a Look at the drug trade that takes you deep inside the world riddled with corruption, betrayal, and bloody revenge. Just a coincidental.
Way back to the beginning.
But it sounds like a good book. So, if you get a chance, check it out.
And if not, go watch the movie on Netflix with Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm sure it's a phenomenal Western.
Or not.
Feel free. As always, gentlemen, thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. Your hot takes, your position, your perspective. It's always fascinating. It's always to get us all together. Easy, slow your roll. It's always fun to get together each week and talk about these things. And again, I don't think any of us are saying like Joe Rogan's a bad person. Maybe he made a misstep, made a mistake. He's trying to.
I don't know if he's a bad person or a good person. I don't fucking know the guy.
Don't know the
I'm
guy.
Saying he should have the ability to say what he wants to say, just like we should have
lapses in judgment.
We want to say.
Yeah. Lapses in judgment and some things. And we've all said this about comedians, right? They put out material. It doesn't always age well.
No.
And in this instance, he said some things, or maybe some things were taken out of context. It clearly didn't age well.
Here's the more important part about that. And that's a great point. It's a fucking joke, right?
What's a joke?
90% of what comedians say is a joke.
Yeah, but not what he does on his podcast. That's different. That's not like doing a stand-up on a stage where you can't make that correlation. You don't get to play that. I'm not saying you, but he doesn't get to play that card. I'm a stand-up comedian, not on your show, because that's different. That's a different forum, and that's a different medium that you're trying to use to push whatever your agenda is.
I feel like I'm getting replaced after this week.
Fancy Ace, I'll be calling you.
Is he on speed dial?
But as always, I do
canceled.
That's right. I do appreciate you guys being here. It's wonderful as always. And week in and week out, we do this. This just happened to be the episode of the week. And so, yes, Haas, if you would be so kind as to tell the listeners what our email address is, I would appreciate it.
It's the 4 horsemen at spiriteddebates.com.
Can you spell that for them just in case there's some confusion?
Well, the biggest thing is that 4 is spelled out. It's not the number 4, but FOUR.
Thank you. Yes, the 4 horsemen at spiriteddebates.com. Please reach out to us. Let us know what you think, what your thoughts are. If there's a drink you'd like us to try or a topic you'd like us to debate, we'd love to hear from you, because then maybe possibly if you've got a good topic, we can get you on the show. We'd love to have you on here, talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. Go to our website at spiriteddebates.com. Check out the drinks that we've all had here, 300 plus drinks. God damn, that's a lot of drinks. And, if there's a topic you'd like.
My liver thanks you. It salutes you.
Well, there's a topic. I feel like Thor may have had 300 of those in his one glass today. So,
well, welcome to a day in the life of Haas. Come on, man.
Four fingers, oh Haas. That's what I'm calling it. 4 fingers, oh Haas.
Not all heroes wear capes.
As always, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I do appreciate it. Love you guys, and we will do this again next week.
Have a great one, gentlemen.
Thanks, gentlemen.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the hosts or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.